Hi, this is Gladys Pizarro, and you're listening to the House Culture Podcast.
House Culture.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the House Culture Podcast with me, your host, the managing editor at House Culture, Matt Rouse. Thank you for putting your headphones on today and listening to this. It's you, dear listener, that keeps this podcast going and makes it what it is. If you haven't tuned in before, then I'd like to welcome you to House Culture. We are a collective of house music fans who have come together through their mutual love of the beat to celebrate the spirit of house music. Come follow us over on Instagram at HouseCultureNet, and there you'll be greeted to our very own dance floor that is made up of over 100,000 followers. Please don't forget, if you haven't already, to dig through our brilliant back catalogue of interviews that features original innovators like Danny Rampling, David Morales and Graham Park, behind the scenes creators like Pike's Hotel creative director Dawn Hindle, and Manumission founders Mike and Claire, and current superstars such as Purple Disco Machine, Josh Butler and Lovely Laura. We have something for all tastes, as well as some huge guests coming up. So hit that follow button to make sure you don't miss out on any new releases. Now let's get on with this episode, shall we? This person was described as house music royalty in our previous episode with Dwayne Harden, so we had to roll out the red carpet for her. Her name is Gladys Pizarro, and she is the co-founder of iconic house music label Strictly Rhythm, and through her work there has helped to propel the careers of people like Roger Sanchez, Armand van Helden and little Louie Vega. She is still very much part of the scene today, and as you'll hear, is working on some very exciting projects. In our chat, you'll hear about her growing up and where she learned all about dance music.
I got all my degree in dance music right in the heart of the projects. You know, the guys used to bring their amplifier and the two turntables and hook it up to the lamppost. And on Fridays, it was on.
About the legends she has worked with and how she has helped them in their careers.
The best one is when Louie came in. I was like, oh, God, I can't believe he's here. All right, great. So it was great because I was able to help him do the transformation from what he was doing into house.
And her thoughts on how and why house music has managed to take over the world.
House music is something that started in Chicago and in New York. You know, the UK developed its own sound, and what it holds down to is it's a worldwide phenomenon. It appeals to everyone. It's amazing how something just completely evolved, it completely snowballed. And it makes me feel, you know, I'm happy. I'm happy that we were able to create something and share it. And then the other countries making it their own.
I hope you enjoy our conversation. This is Gladys Pizarro.
House Culture.
Hi Gladys. Thank you so much for sitting down with us on the House Culture Podcast today. It's a real honour to have you on board. As co-founder of the iconic Strictly Rhythm record label, you have been responsible for laying the foundations of the house music scene, as well as launching the careers of many of the superstars that we know and love today. You're still pushing things forward with your current venture, Launch Entertainment. But before we get into all of that, can we go back to the beginning and find out where you grew up and what kind of music you first discovered when you were young?
Okay, awesome. Well, first of all, Matt, thank you so much for having me. This is such an honor to be here with you. And okay, let's go back to the 1970s. I grew up in Spanish Harlem. Mm-hmm. I came from my family's from Puerto Rico, and you know, we lived in Spanish Harlem. So I mean, during those times, it wasn't the best neighborhood, but it's where we lived. And you know, I don't have any no doubts about the area because it wouldn't make me the woman that I am today. Mm-hmm. My family was kind of strict, so I wasn't able to go to the clubs at an early age. All my friends were going to the clubs around 14 and 15.
Wow.
But I got all my my degree in dance music right in the heart of the projects. You know, the guys used to bring their amplifier and the two turntables and hook it up to the lamppost.
Mm-hmm.
And on Fridays, it was on. Like, people would get their beer and everything else, and their party favors. And 99th Street and 3rd Avenue was the place to be.
Yeah.
So if you weren't able to go clubbing and spend the $10 or $15 at that time, you'll have a good time right on 99th Street and 3rd Avenue for free.
Wow. And so I'd imagine it's a real melting pot of music as well, those type of events, like people bringing their own stuff for people to play and just everyone just getting involved. Like, what kind of things were you hearing there?
And then it was early disco and hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
Early disco, people were doing the hustle, which was a dance back then. and then they would also sometimes play a little hip hop, the early stuff, like Africa Bambaataa, but before that, to the hip hop.
Sugar Hill Gang.
Yeah, Sugar Hill Gang, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that, and Evelyn Champagne King, a little R&B. But yeah, if it wasn't for all of that eclectic, straight up ghetto fabulous music, I was lucky to get all that eclectic music. I was listening to all of that at that particular time.
Yeah.
And then again, my father was a merchant marine, so he traveled a lot, and he brought us records. He brought us he was always blasting his Latin salsa records.
Uh-huh.
Or if not, he'd bring Elvis Presley, James Brown. We had all that kind of music being played at my house. And I have two sisters as well. So they were listening to WABC, which was a rock station, a pop station. And then my other sister was listening to more R&B. Mm-hmm. So it was all types of music in my house.
Yeah. Your sister's older than you are?
Yes, I have two older sisters.
Yeah, like the amount of people we've spoken to as well, and me also. I've got an older brother. It's like so many people have had that influence, and it kind of filters down to a point where
Absolutely.
the youngest gets all of this education.
Yeah, I can't, I have no complaints whatsoever. That was a really memorable time in my life.
Mm-hmm. And so you're mentioning like these block parties and whatever. Like, what was the vibe at these types of places? There was never like any trouble or anything like that. It's just people just going crazy. What was it?
No. People. That's when a lot of people were just having fun. Mm-hmm. Smoking and drinking their beers, smoking their little pot and stuff, and then just having a good time, vibing off the music and And it was at that time also there was the battling. Like there was a battle of dances, like who could dance the best. They would throw Jimmy Castor Bunch, Just Begun, right? Mm-hmm. Right. They would throw Just Begun, and the guys would be battling each other, doing their dance and everything, and it was kind of cool. We were looking forward to like, who's gonna outdo the next. Who's gonna outdo the next one? Who's gonna do this? Who's gonna do that? It was kind of cool. So you had Jimmy Castor Bunch. They would play James Brown. They would play. There were so many great tracks at that particular time that everybody would try to outdo each other in their dances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can you remember the first record that you bought with your own money? What was that?
I begged my mom for 75 cents. I was like, Mom, please. I got like all A's this semester, and she gave me the 75 cents, and I bought The Love You Save by the Jackson 5. Mm-hmm. That was my first record that I ever bought. It was a 45. Mm-hmm. And then I kept collecting records like once a week, then I got One Bad Apple by the Osmonds.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. And then I was always a record collector. Mm-hmm. I never went into DJing because I just didn't see myself doing that, but I collected records for years. I just don't have them anymore because when I moved out of my apartment, I wasn't going to bring them. So a friend of mine was like, oh, I'll take them. So he took my whole collection, even all my Strictly stuff gone. Wow. I don't have that one record.
Oh, no way.
Anymore. Yeah, I know.
A lot of DJs I've spoken to have sold a lot of their collection. Say it feels like a weight's been lifted as well, not only physically but mentally.
I just couldn't. It was. I love having them, but then there was a point where I was just like, I'm not going to be able to hold on to these anymore. So I gave it to someone that appreciated it, and they have my collection.
Yeah, well, that's the best thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cool. So, like, talk to me about, what you wanted to be like when you were growing up or whatever. Are you going to like school and things? What were you interested in? Did you ever think you were thinking about a career in music?
No, what happened was I went to school and I actually wanted to be a director, a film director.
No way.
And I got myself a job for a few years as a production assistant. I worked on a few movies as a production assistant with Richard Gere, Jackie Chan.
Wow.
a couple of. I was doing that for a few years, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot, like many hours, minimum pay, and freezing and reshooting things in the winter was not, it was not a good thing. It was kind of good because I had my foot in the door, but then I was like, nah, this isn't working out. And then I got myself a job at a music store, at an electronic store, like The Wiz, And then a friend of mine, he was like, I want to see if you can get a job at Spring Records. And that's how I met Mark Finkelstein at Spring Records. I was the worst receptionist in the world. I mean, I sucked at typing, and I was good at taking messages and relaying messages on the phone and stuff like that. But I was a horrible typist. It took me forever to invoices, and we didn't have computers back then, so I had to white it out, and I'm just happy that he stood by me. I don't know why he had so much faith in me, and because I was not really a good person for the office, right?
Yeah.
But he did notice that I like to go out a lot, and I got a promotion from receptionist to promotion. And then I really blossomed there. I was like going to the clubs. I was like, wait a minute, you're gonna pay me to go to the clubs. He was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, all of a sudden the heaven opened up. And that was it. Because I was like, I was doing it anyway, but now I had an expense account, and I could go visit Frankie Knuckles, I could go see David, I could go see Jelly Bean, I could go see Louie. I was like, oh, this is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, if we just back up just a little bit, like obviously Mark Finkelstein is like the co-founder of Strictly Rhythm with you. And you mentioned you started as a receptionist at Spring Records. I mean, as a sidebar to that, at that moment, you were obviously well into the clubbing scene in New York as well. What clubs were you going to, and what was the general kind of feeling in those clubs and the music at that time as well?
Okay, so I was going to a club by the name of 1018, Emerald City, the Red Parrot. Those were clubs that were playing commercial music, and at that time it was called Latin freestyle. Okay, and I wasn't even I was not at the house area yet. I was just going to those clubs doing the freestyle thing. And I was working at Spring. A friend of mine took me to Club Zanzibar, and that was it. I'll never forget walking up the stairs of that club and seeing the mirror, which was completely, how would I say, not smoky, but it was like, when you it was just
misty.
It was just like, I remember the mirror being so, I don't know what's the right word for it, but it was just so hot because it was like
condensation.
I was going up the stairs, and all you could hear is that kick, boom, 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 and then this Tony was just like killing the crossovers with Move Your Body, dun, 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 dun. And it was like and I was like, oh my God, I know what it is. I'm like getting excited just talking about it. The club was like sweating. It was sweating, like the ceiling was dripping, and the energy in that place was crazy. It reminds me a little bit of how when I used to go to Ministry of Sound, how it was, but the thumping sound system in that place was intense. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I went to the club that one time, and then I became a regular. That was it for me. That was it. I became like a weekend member.
Yeah.
That just talking about it, I was there.
Yeah, and it's like legendary now. It's Zanzibar, New Jersey, Tony Humphreys. It's like, yeah, for
That
me
was
as a British guy hearing about that, it's like, yeah, it sounds incredible.
that was just an amazing time for
Hmm.
house. And that friend that took me to that place, little did I know that I was gonna work at a label and start putting music out. I
Hmm.
didn't have any musical background. All I know is what I liked.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just used to go there and hear him play and be like, oh, I love this. I like this. Like I would buy this. Like
Hmm.
I would buy this record. So we didn't have Shazam back then, but I'm like knock on his door and look to see what he's playing. But he gets total credit for everything
Yeah.
in my career.
Oh, wow.
He knows it. I don't take him for granted whatsoever because he was the one that taught me about house music.
Wow, and I mean, so at this stage, yeah, you're basically you've been taken under the wing by Mark. He's seen something in you. You know, you've got this street level credibility. You're plugged
Yes.
into the sound. You know, so you were promoted at Spring, or did
Yeah.
you? So and then what happened after that with Strictly?
I was promoted because I was going out to the clubs all the time,
Hmm.
and Spring was an R&B, soulful R&B label back in the day, which had the Fatback Band, Joe Simon, Millie Jackson. So I was getting my feet wet with that kind of music. It did really well for a certain amount of time until the late 80s when the New Jack Swing started taking over.
Hmm.
And that kind of music started happening. And then the R&B that traditional R&B that we were doing was no longer what the public wanted. Of course, is what they wanted, but there was a new Jack Swing, a new era that swept the nation, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
For the younger kids,
Mhm.
for the younger crowd.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then that company went under,
Hmm.
and then one day Mark was like, "Look, I really would like to stay in the business. Would you come with me?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, I need a job." And I love what we're doing. It's just, what do we do next?
Yeah.
Now, he asked me, and I said, "Well, I see freestyle is kind of dying out in a weird way.
Hmm.
But what's come to me right now is I just went to this club, Zanzibar, and I think I think we should start doing house music."
Hmm.
And he was like, "All right, let's go." So he opened up a little label
Hmm.
at a little office at 1650 Broadway, which had 2 rooms, and we were everything in there. I was his receptionist, A&R, everything. I worked in the mail room. He did the accounting. He helped me with promotion, make some phone calls, and that's how we started.
Amazing. And Mark as an individual as well, you guys, you couldn't be further apart, really. I mean, what was the dynamic between the two of you like?
No, when you see Mark, you think he's a Wall Street guy,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
He had his suit on, his cowboy boots, and then they see the street kid that hangs out with him. And it's funny because some demos, when people come in and they would want to give us demos, they were like, "I don't see what's going on here. I don't see the," but little did they know that, we were going to be an amazing label.
Yeah. Yeah.
I call us the little label that could, because we, in the beginning, it was hard, but we got through it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, so that was set up in 1989, right? So.
Oh yeah, around 89. Yes, it was 89.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
89, 88.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned A&R as well, and like you were very much in charge of that. Just for the benefit of our listeners, what does an A&R person do? What's your kind of role really in a record label doing that job?
Well, first of all, you got to look for a producer that produces something that you think people will like and that people will buy. So what worked for me is that I'm a consumer. So when I was going to the clubs, I was like, "Oh, I'm buying that. I got to get the name of that. I want that," So that was me wanting to buy something is good because I'm exactly what the label wants. I'm the consumer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the consumer and I'm the collector. And my job is to make sure that you buy the record.
Yeah.
that there's going to be a crowd of people that are going to want to buy it because it's that good.
And I mean, setting up a house music specific kind of label at that time as well is, it's almost like a bit of a leap into the unknown, almost, I suppose.
No, it was absolutely a leap to the unknown. We had no way of knowing how to do this.
Mm-hmm.
It was definitely a trial and error. It was a trial and error thing. We were like, okay, let's just try this. And it worked. If it didn't, we're like, all right, next.
Yeah. So, I mean, how were you discovering like talent? Like, obviously, you're at Zanzibar. You're knocking on the window. You're like consuming like what's being played there. Like, how else were you discovering talent? Were people approaching you? Was it through conversations?
No,
what was happening?
In the beginning, I was going out to clubs and, hearing and looking around to see if any DJ was going to give like the cassette or that to any of those guys. Mm-hmm. And that's how I met Roger. Roger was, he used to sell his tapes in the street. And I used to he made a record for another company in the building that I like called Ego Trip. Mm-hmm. And I just approached him and I said, look, I would like you to do something for me because I really like this record. And I spoke to Mark. I got some studio time and I put him in the studio and he produced Love Dancing.
Oh, I was listening to that before this interview. It's like one of my all-time faves.
I couldn't believe it, right? I was like, yo, this is the bomb. Mm. He nailed it. And what's really bizarre, it was a Christmas Eve, he produced that record, right? Mm-hmm. And the minute we're ready to leave, I'm happy about the project. Something happens and it all goes, like it's gone. Mm-hmm. Like the music, everything that was ready to put on that, something happened to the board and erased everything. Oh. But thank God the next day, Roger went and he nailed it just the same way he did the prior day.
Wow.
But I was like, oh God, no, but he nailed it. So the rest is history.
Yeah, the underground solution, isn't it? Oh, you put it out as, and it's like, it still works now. I have heard people play it in the last year. It still works. Crazy. It's awesome.
That's one of the important things I gotta say, that we're lucky. Like some of the songs that are on Strictly that were done in the 90s, mm-hmm. you can still play some of those records today and they work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's why we'll come on to the legacy of some of those. I mean, like you said, you're a consumer as well. So once you've got these records or sign these tracks, they're going to be like hits, or they're going to be big. How then were you getting them out there? Were you getting them into the hands of DJs and record pluggers, and how was that working?
In the beginning, it was hard because I didn't have any credibility, right? So they were like, oh, what is this? Someone you bring the record, they're like, oh. But once I signed the warning and I went to Tony and I gave it to Tony, mm-hmm. and Tony Humphries played it on this show, 98.7 KISS. Not only did he play it 98.7 KISS, I think he played it 2 times. By the time I went to the office on Monday, mm-hmm. the phones were ringing off the hook because people wanted to license it and people wanted to have it for their stores. Mm-hmm. So that gave me credibility. That gave me street cred.
Yeah.
Once that record came out, that was it.
Yeah.
It was Love Dancing and The Warning. Mm-hmm. I had 2. And then that was it. People started sending us music. Now people want to make, they want to come in.
In terms of The Warning, how did that come about? How did you discover that? What happened there?
No, that came in through Eddie Maduro. Actually, I think Eddie worked at a place called Pellegrino Promotions. Mm-hmm. And we were putting out the word that we were looking for talent. We were looking for demos. We wanted to put music out. So the word got out and people started sending cassettes in. Mm-hmm. Cassettes. And when I heard that, I was like, we got to get this. Because that was really brilliant, that song. That track is brilliantly produced. Mm-hmm. It's something that, it was just amazing. And That was a collaboration between Eddie Maduro and Wayne Gardner,
Yeah.
who's amazing. He was amazing. They're both amazing.
So when you got something like that, and was the trust in you from Mark to kind of run with it? Like, did he say, that was your type, or your part of the job, or did he have to have sign off on it as well?
I think one thing that was awesome is that he didn't interfere.
Mm-hmm.
He did the business. That was his thing, and he let me be totally creative, and that's why we bought. We were good that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
It worked.
And you've already mentioned Roger, as in Roger Sanchez. The list goes on, like Armand and Helden, Masters at Work, Barbara Tucker. I mean, it's huge. I'd always imagine it's pretty thrilling, like discovering some new talent. Tell us about a time where you've really been blown away by someone or something, where someone's come in the door or a tape has come in or something, and you just know that this person has got it and they're going to be big.
Okay. Now, I've been a huge Louie Vega fan. Okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, and Todd Terry. So I met Todd when I worked at Spring. I was a receptionist there. And when he used to come in, I was like, like so excited. And he wouldn't talk to me. He was like, go into the office and stuff. Mm-hmm. But as he kept coming in, and I think I broke the ice with him, like, oh, I really like your stuff. I collect your records. Then we kind of started talking, hey, Gladys, stuff. That was kind of cool. So that was cool because I met him at Spring. Mm-hmm. So by the time I got to Strictly, I was like, hey, Todd, I'm doing A&R now at Strictly Rhythm. Would you come by and do you have anything for me? Mark is here as well. Not only did he come in to see me at Strictly, but he bought me a cake, like 12 dats to go through. Wow. He's like, hey, these are some of my, pick out what you want.
Yeah.
I was like, thank you. Now, once he came in, it gave me leverage for Kenny to come in. Mm-hmm. And if now we got Todd and Kenny, then who else comes in? Louie. The rest is history. The best one is when Louie came in. Mm-hmm. This is a good one. Okay. When Louie came in, I was like, oh God, I can't believe he's here. All right, great. Louie came in to see me and he gave me a DAT. Mm-hmm. And he goes, oh, I have a few things here that I worked on. Let me know what you think. I was like, okay, no worries. I'll check it out. And I think he left. The minute I heard it, I was, you know what it was? Hard drive, deep inside. The hard drive EP. He's like, you know what? He goes, because this is the thing. Check this out, man. This is the thing. He goes, this was the time when he was going to, he was doing freestyle and remixes at that time. So I was a great person at the time to do the, not transformation, but he was transitioning. Mm-hmm. He was transitioning from doing what he was doing. Well, I mean, he was a remixer. He was remixing and doing kind of freestyle remixes and things like that. And I forgot. And I'm trying to think of that song. Anyway, he was, I think on Tommy Boy. I just can't remember. Information Society.
Okay.
So it was great because I was able to help him do the transformation from what he was doing into house. Mm-hmm. And we developed such a friendship and such a great relationship that he was just giving me practically all of his house, the beginning of his house tracks. He was doing it with me. And I was ecstatic because I loved everything he did. Mm-hmm. We were just like both happy and excited about most of the tracks that he was putting out.
Incredible. And, you've already talked about the two tunes that, Underground Solution and, it's already slipped my mind. Not Hard Drive. But anyway, you've already got Strictly on the map, and, things are moving on and forward. When was the moment where you realized actually we've really smashed this now? We're really an integral part of the scene. And
oh no, yeah. I think it was we were just killing it because let me see, the year might have been, I say 90, 92, 92, around 92, I came back with a vengeance. It was just like, I brought Eric Murillo in, Armand Van Helden in, I brought India, I brought Barbara Tucker in, and it was just, I was just, it was just like almost, you know? Yeah, that was a really, really, oh my God, yeah. And then we did I Like to Move It. So it's a lot. It was a lot. It was I had a good streak.
Yeah. And, you know, in terms of, it wasn't necessarily tied to one particular sound or like the label. It was, you know, it could, you know, like Josh Wink, Higher State of Consciousness is the same label that put out Ultranate Free. You know, it
had to be eclectic.
Yeah. I mean, was that a difficult thing to do to maintain that?
No, I think that's what people loved. You didn't know what you were going to get. Like chocolates, you know, like you didn't know. One day one day it could be Josh Wink. One day it could be Real to Real. You know, so yeah. One day it could be Witch Doctor. Yeah. You know, you don't know.
Do you have like a particular favorite, or at least a creation story that you might have been involved with somehow around one of those tracks or anything like that?
Oh, there's so many. I remember when Louie was doing India's record, River Ocean, and he was like so excited. He was like, "Oh my God, I don't know, I gotta call Gladys." It was like 4 a.m. You're like 4 a.m. Like, Gladys, you gotta come to the studio. I'm like, Louie, it's 4 a.m. He goes, "You really need to come hear this." And I was like, all right. When Louie said that, it was like, all right, no problem. Let me go see what it is. And it was worth it. Absolutely. It's one of my favorite of all time. You know, he's like, you got to hear this. You got to hear this. And and right away. One thing is funny is like, that was at 4 a.m. By the time I got to work at 10, I was like, Mark, we need a contract. We need to sign this right away before it goes to someone else. So I was like, yeah, I was on it. Yeah, I reacted quickly.
I mean, were there any ones out there that you've heard and you kind of kick yourself that you didn't get, or ones that slipped through the net, or ones that you wish you'd signed, or something like that?
No, you know, I've been lucky that I haven't really passed anything. But one thing that I do, I wish, I remember seeing him all the time, and he wanted to give me demos and all that. And I was just like, I don't know. I didn't maybe have the time. As Sandy Rivera. Sandy could have been one of my guys as well, but I don't know. For some reason, we just didn't.
The planets didn't align for whatever reason.
Right. But he's doing fine now. Yeah, he's doing great. He didn't need me. You know?
Yeah. I mean, so like moving forward through Strictly Rhythm, I mean, the first iteration of the label, it kind of closed its doors in 2002, and you know, you were there until the very last day.
Yeah, 2002.
Was it 2002?
Yeah. You nailed it.
Yeah. And I mean, at that stage, and particularly what was going on, you know, it's just post 9/11 in New York and things like that, and the house music tastes were changing a bit in terms of what people were interested in for the dance floors and things like that. Did you feel like it was the end of an era? And
no doubt. I had a great 16-year run.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. And, you know, I never thought that day was going to end, you know, and when it did, it was kind of painful because it's what I knew. And then all of a sudden everything just stopped. So yeah, it was the transition was kind of weird, but you know, we move on.
Yeah, life
moves on, you know, and we try to give it another round, but you know, and then EDM came and it just was weird. Like I'm not going to speak for Mark, but I couldn't relate to it. And then it got to a point where like, oh, we need to do what they're doing, so to speak. And I was like, no. Anyway, it didn't work out for me and him, and he decided to joint venture with other companies. He did something with Defected for a moment, and then that didn't necessarily work out, and everybody just went their own way.
Yeah. Well, it's a shame, but like you said, it was a very, very long run of like, even the
Yeah, great.
stuff that I could name off the top of my head while I was like researching this, is suddenly the scale of the chat was becoming overwhelming in terms of looking at all of the other ones that I'd forgotten about that were on the label and released during that period. It's an incredible run. You should be so proud. It's a real part of the fabric of the house music scene. Okay, so what's happening right now? What are your thoughts on the scene? Well, no, let's talk launch entertainment.
I had a great little run for a minute, but I had a passing in the family, and so I decided to take a year off. And literally, it's going to be a year, literally. So just to reevaluate where I belong, because I'm older now, and I don't know if I'm going to do this anymore. I don't mind running the label, but my position needs to change a bit, So I may help and do a little promotion or I just don't know where I'm fitting. I'm going to fit, but I'm definitely not going to be doing A&R a little bit, but not like before.
Well, I mean, that's good though. I mean, at least, I'm getting the vibe and the sense that, you haven't fallen out of love with it. And, you're not saying it's a hard stop. I've had enough. I'm done. So, it's good that you're maintaining that element of keeping your toe in there, I suppose.
I'm going to keep my toe in, but I got to have someone else run it. And I'll help run it, but someone else is going to have to do the legwork. Let's say that. Yeah.
Cool. I mean, so what's involved in launch entertainment? What facets does it go into in the scene? And is it a label, events? What's going on?
No, well, that's what I'm doing. What I'm planning on doing now is I get the producer and I get the writer. I'm doing more of I'm putting things together. Like I got the writer and I got the music, and then we'll find a singer. I'm trying to do more. I don't want to say commercial, but I want to do more crossover. Yep. I'm still on the street edge, but something that has the potential of crossing over. And then I have a few things that I'm working on now, and I'll be releasing in the summer.
I know we've been talking on email as well, and you have mentioned a house music documentary.
Oh, yes.
That you're working on. Obviously, this podcast is all about like the oral history of house. We've been speaking to everyone and anyone, and now you're a part of that as well. I'm so excited to hear about what you're working on. Tell us more if you can.
Yeah, of course. So for the last, I gotta say, I've been on this project for like the last 10 years, and it's pretty much the story of what I spoke to you about. But you're gonna I have great interviews with MK, I mean, pretty much everyone that's been on the label. And I even have great footage of Eric Murillo before he passed. And he tells his story, and Armand tells his story. And I have also, Louie tells his story. And it's going to be quite interesting putting it together. I'm just trying to figure out how I want to end it.
It's never going to end. I mean, and it's good as well. I suppose it's harking back to your original passion of wanting to be a filmmaker.
Yeah, it's so bizarre because it came full circle. The thing is, I was interviewing them, and what I don't like is that it's really going back to me. So I gotta give this project to someone else because it wasn't supposed to be about me. It's supposed to be about how they came from humble beginnings and became, they flourished and became these DJs, world-renowned DJs. That's what the story is supposed to be about. Yeah. But it all triggers back to me, and it's awkward, So that's why I have to give this to someone else. To I got the footage, I got everything, but it has to go to someone else. I can't do it.
You're too modest, it sounds like.
No.
I mean, so, looking at the kind of scene as it is right now, obviously we're in this like weird post not so post COVID lockdown thing. Clubs have been closed for a bit. People are a bit not necessarily frightened, but certainly more cautious about going out to these big environments. I mean, what's your take on on what's going to happen like in the immediate 6 months, and then just like the future of the scene in general? What do you think?
I'm like, wait a minute. First of all, there's parties going on in New York. I mean, I saw the weekend 718 party. I saw Louie playing the other day. Oh my God. And I look at Instagram, I see, oh my God, the beautiful club I want to go to. I mean, it's in the UK, but anyway, it was full to capacity. I mean, jam-packed, people having a good time, hands up in the air, you know, like I haven't seen that in a long time. And that's what's coming. That's what's coming. And I want to be there for that because first of all, we've all been cooped up for the last 2 years and we want to get out and party. So when this, the industry is going to boom.
Yeah.
And well deserved because we deserve it because we've been indoors for 2 years.
Yeah.
So the minute that this happens, it's going to be off the hook. I can't wait. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can see myself in Ibiza now drinking those little chupitos, man. Ibiza, what is it? Yelbas.
Yelbas. Oh man, yeah. It was. I did manage to get out there October last year for a weekend, but even that was a bit straight. It was like no dancing, but you were allowed to table. It was very very strange, but still, it's nice.
I see myself in Cafe Mambo.
Yeah, I know. It's gonna happen. You're rubbing your hands. It's great. Cool. I mean, you know, and generally, what do you think is going to happen for like labels and things like that in the future? Like, obviously, you know, you've been into this scene for 30 years and you've seen like the change from vinyl through to digital and clubs and how events change. And now we've got like virtual things going on. What do you think is kind of the longer term future of this scene? Do you think it's going to keep evolving, or you know, what's going to happen?
It's people are going to want to go out. I mean, you got to have that interaction with others. I mean, the virtual thing is cool for now, but we have to have that human to human contact. It's not the same.
Yeah.
You know, we need that. We need to definitely feel each other's vibe. But for now, I mean, I'm not really into the virtual thing. It's all right. I want to feel my needs. I want to be there with people.
Yeah.
And put your hands up and feel the music.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you pulsing through.
I miss that so much.
Yeah.
What's the name of that club? I just saw them. You know, it's I think the hottest thing in London right now.
Is it Printworks?
That's it.
Yeah.
Wow, that place is. I haven't been there yet, but it looks like a beautiful club.
It's incredible. I mean, do you know the history of the building? Because it's called Printworks because it used to house the printing presses for one of the big newspapers in London. And so it used to have this huge amount of machinery in there. So, I mean, the actual building itself is vast. It's incredible. And they're turning it all into flats in apartments in a couple of years, I think. So the agreement was that they could turn it into a club while they're getting planning permission for the apartments. Wow. So if you're gonna go, you need to go because it's not going to be there forever.
It's
so
beautiful. Like I look at pictures in that place and I'm like, whoa, it's so nice. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, it's a huge, long, vast cathedral. Yeah, I'm getting goosebumps saying about it.
I know. And packed. I mean. Anyway, enjoy it. Hopefully, I don't know when I'll be up there soon, but
you'll love it.
I can get the vibe off of Instagram.
Yeah, cool. I mean, so we've covered all the stuff that I wanted to go through, so it's really, really good. I mean, is there anything else before we move on to the tracks and the playlist? Is there anything else that you want to talk about?
Yeah. Oh, all right. I know. Yeah. All right. So I have a few guys that I'm working with now that you guys will pay attention. Okay. I'm really, really feeling this kid from Peru. His name is Kenny Bryant. Look out for his music coming out. He's all over the place, but he's also doing some things for launch. And there's a new kid also. Actually, not new. I've been working with him when I was at Strictly by the name of Saliva Commandos. And he's doing some amazing work. And Junior Rivero. So just a few names just to put out there.
Okay.
For all you DJs and consumers to check out in the next few months.
Cool. And like, so talking about artists and tunes as well, like, you know, we're going to move on to the playlist now. And what we always ask our guests to do is we've got on Spotify, it's the House Culture Perfect playlist. And every single one of our guests has provided 5 tracks based on different themes for this playlist. It's, you know, I think it's over 24 hours long now. It's huge, and there are so many different tastes and choices and things in there that it's great. Yeah. So yeah, it's a great eclectic listen, and obviously you've been fantastic and diligent in getting me your choices before we've spoken. So I've you know, for the ones that sometimes they're completely out of left field and I'm like, I've never heard this tune before, so I need to educate myself, but these are all really fantastic choices. So you've already mentioned this tune as well, but a catalyst tune that first got you into house music. What have you chosen?
Well, we just spoke about that. It was my first hit of house music. It was Marshall Jefferson, Move Your Body.
Yeah.
And we just discussed that. That was it for me. I was like, oh God, this is so good.
Yeah. And I think it was her first house track to have a piano on it, I think, or something. I've definitely seen an interview with Marshall talking about that. So
it's so good. And you know what? You still hear it today and then go bananas.
Yeah. All right, a floor filler. I know that we had you were on the fence with some of the choices. I can go through your 3 that you sent over, and you can maybe pick one from there. So the first is like Crystal Waters, Gypsy Woman, Basement Jaxx, Fly Life. Shout out to Basement Jaxx, and Weiss, Feel My Needs. Obviously, a bit of a span there in terms of release dates. What you want to choose? Well, tell me what your feelings are on each one of those and why they popped into your head.
Oh my God! And I forgot Lola's theme. I mean, that you leave your drink at the bar when that comes on. You're like, you know. All right, that's my favorite of all time.
Yeah. We can put that one in.
It's a little dated, but I don't know for floor fillers right now. I can't think of anything, and I hope I'm not. I just can't think of anything off my head that I'm like, oh my God, that gets me so excited like those records do.
Yeah. I love that analogy. That's, you put your drink down at the bar for that. Yeah, it's great. Cool. And for a sunsetter, you've chosen basically anything by Steve Miller, Afterlife.
I love him.
Yeah, and when he gets hold of even the remixes and things that he's done, always top drawer. I
agree.
Cool. A tearjerker.
Definitely Unfinished Symphony. It has the video has always touched me. I don't know why, but it's just brilliantly produced. And look, I can't even say anything. Let's just leave it there.
Yeah, it's just, like you say, the video is iconic. There's so much going on in that, and you can see the power on it's who's the vocalist? Shara Nelson, isn't it? I think you see the rawness and power of everything on her face, and it's just the strings every time. Forget me. Yeah,
that's absolutely.
Something was going on in the studio that day. Yeah.
And you know, I heard it not so long ago, and I'm like, I still get that feeling, that, you know, goosebumps. It's just beautifully produced.
Yeah. And what's your last tune?
I think if you play this at the end of the night and everybody's like, one more, and you just drop that guitar part, everybody's like, yeah. And it's perfect for today because freedom can be taken away. It's like something that we all need to really think about these days, because we are in a place where it could be taken away and we're taking it for granted. So it couldn't come at a better time.
You're so right. And like it still means so much, the lyrics in that. And everyone knows them. It's one of those ones that even when it was released, you just knew that you'd still be hearing this in clubs and on dance floors forevermore. You know, it's like a full-on classic.
It still works today, and it's still very meaningful today.
Yeah,
It has a lot of meaning to it.
absolutely. And so we always wrap up with our final question, which is obviously we are house culture and you are part of the fabric of the scene, part of that culture, been driving it forward, been delivering all these anthems and iconic tracks via Strictly Rhythm into our eardrums for decades. When you look at the whole culture of the scene and your part within it, what does it mean to you, and what has it brought you in your life when you look at it as a whole?
Well, what's interesting to me is that house music it's so funny. It's house music. It's like it's something that started in Chicago and in New York, and of course, the UK developed its own sound, and the Italians and Europe. Mm-hmm. But what it holds down to is it's a worldwide phenomenon. Like it appeals to everyone. And oh my God, and South Africa is out of control now. Like they just taking house to a whole nother level. Mm-hmm. That's how it reminds me of how it was for us in the late 80s, early 90s. I keep seeing videos and I'm like, wow, it's amazing how something just completely evolved. It completely snowballed. Mm-hmm. And it makes me feel, I'm happy. I'm happy that we were able to create something and share it. And then the other countries making it their own. So it's just something that appeals to everyone.
There's a brilliant final thought. Thank you so much.
It was really nice meeting you, Matt. You took me down memory lane, and I'm a little touched by that. So thank you.
House culture.
Oh, how nice was that? Gladys was such a lovely guest, and I'm sure you'll agree, an absolute pleasure to chat to as we all accompanied her on that journey down memory lane. I loved hearing all those stories about people who just need those one-name introductions, like Roger and Louie. We all know who they are. I'm also excited to hear more about that documentary she's working on. Sounds like it's going to be a genuine history of the scene told by those who were there. Kind of like this podcast, right? We'll keep our eyes open for that and obviously keep you informed on its development. What else you should look out for is, you heard her mention him in the interview, the new producer called Kenny Bryan, coming straight out of Peru. He has a new track out soon called Chalura, and it's an absolute beast. I thoroughly recommend searching it out if you can. And speaking of tunes, get yourself onto Spotify and start following the House Culture Perfect playlist. Here you'll find a selection of tracks curated by all of our previous podcast guests. Gladys's ones are in there now, including her last tune, which I realised we didn't actually ID by name in the interview, but I'm sure you got it from her very tuneful rendition. It was of course Free by Ultranate, a Strictly Rhythm classic. For her Sunsetter, which was anything by the genius that is Steve Miller, aka Afterlife, I've chosen his timeless remix of Jakarta's American Dream. I've also made the executive decision to narrow Gladys's floor filler choice down to Lola's theme by the Shapeshifters. Once that playlist is busting out of your speakers, your job now is to help support this podcast by loving, liking, tweeting and sharing, or by leaving us a review. We love to hear your feedback here at HCHQ, and for those that are kind enough to take the time, we'll 100% give you a shout out on a future episode. This time I want to say a big hello to Jay Gasson, the Gas Man, who said that he really enjoyed listening to all of the super stories in our last episode with Dwayne Harden. Thanks so much, Jay. Make sure you spread the word and keep a lookout for our next few episodes, as I promise you they'll be tastier than a triple cooked chip. Then if you want to continue the party, come on over to our Instagram feed at HouseCultureNet or get stuck into the hashtag #TrueHouseCulture. And finally, you can always get in touch with me, Matt Rouse, directly on Instagram at DJ Matt Rouse. Thanks for listening, rave safe, and see you next time.
House culture.